I will talk just a little bit more, but with lots of spaces between the words so that you can practice meditative listening, which means you're aware of the words that you're hearing, but you're also aware of the spaces between the words. And while you're aware of the spaces between the words, you may notice you're not thinking. If you are thinking, you cannot be aware of the spaces between the words. And this is a good practice, to be aware simultaneously of form and formlessness, of things and of space. And you may notice when you are aware of that space, you are really aware of yourself as the presence. Because that presence is in a space and you may notice when you are aware of space, you are not waiting for the next thing to happen. You are not waiting for what I am going to say next. No need. Because you know that what I'm going to say next, whatever I'm going to say next, cannot add anything important to the realization of your presence. And so, intentionally, I'm not saying anything very interesting right now, because if it's too interesting, you will get drawn back into the words and into thoughts and into form. So it's good that this talk is boring, but leaves more room for the awareness of space. Music, when it has a spiritual dimension, also has spaces in it, or an underlying spaciousness. Some visual art also has spaciousness in it. And when you look at it, you may find there isn't much there. For example, certain Asian paintings with little trees in the corners and little distant mountains and a tiny human standing, and 85% of the painting is empty space. It might be the sky or just empty space. And you look at it and if you really look at it, you become aware that the essence of the painting is not what's there to be seen, but the essence is what's not there, space. And so looking at that can be a realization of your own spaciousness. It's so liberating to realize the essence of yourself as stillness, space. You are so much more than the little me. More than your personal history, successes and failures, successes that turn into failures and failures that turn into successes. One little practice I would recommend. Take 5 minutes or so Everybody has 5 minutes. Don't believe your mind when it tells you you don't have 5 minutes. And the practice is sit somewhere outside or indoors for 5 minutes and practice perception without interference of thinking. It means you just look around wherever you are. You may look at occasionally your gaze may rest upon something, and then after a while you look upon something else. Then you take in the totality of what surrounds you. And as you do, you simultaneously perceive what you're seeing without calling anything. And being aware of the stillness that persists. That is the background to the visual sense perception, like a canvas that is blank. So this is a canvas, and whatever you see is spacious stillness. It's a beautiful way of perceiving the world. And another practice similar to this, particularly good when you are outside, but also indoors. Sit for 5 minutes and be very alert. Pay attention to whatever you are hearing, alert listening, the slightest sounds. No sound is better or worse than another. Every sound is received like a beautiful bird song. A motorbike passing past. But you again are the canvas of the sound this time. And it's all just registered. And you have no preference. Any sound is fine. And you're aware of yourself as the presence, the listening presence. the alertness that makes the hearing possible. And again, as much as possible, no mental labeling. The subtlest sounds are the best because they require the greatest alertness into some distant sound. Listen. So, if you sit in a very still place, in nature perhaps, see how far you can hear. Do you remember the story when a new earth, the Zen master walking with a disciple, and they sit down and have something to eat? Then the disciple says, "Can you explain how to enter Zen?" Which means, can you explain how to enter the state of consciousness that is Zen? And the master says, "Can you hear that distant mountain strain?" And the sound must have been really distant. At first the disciple couldn't hear, but then he became more alert. And of course, as he becomes more alert, he stops thinking, because you cannot really be alert and think. Thinking implies a certain degree of non-alertness. So the disciple listened. And the master said, "Enter Zen from there." In other words, that's the portal into presence.